And we're live and direct. Welcome to the second last day of the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle Lives Extravaganza. It's like an online festival. I hope you guys have really been enjoying it. I definitely have, and we have another amazing interview for you today. Today we have my good friend Karen Ramsey of Super Healthy Children. She's contributed to the bundle with how she overcame 30 years of cystic acne in just 3 months without drugs or surgery or anything like that. We're going to go into thriving on raw for decades, because she's been a raw vegan for multiple decades, and I'm nearing my second decade. Really excited to go on with her. Good morning. Hey guys, welcome in. Hopefully you guys really enjoy this chat. As soon as Karen jumps in, we'll get right into it. I do want to let you guys know, because we're less than 36 hours away until this bundle is gone forever. If you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend you do. If you have checked it out yet, I'd say go check it out again, because I don't know how it's, how you could deny yourself. It's ridiculous. You could go to a restaurant once and pay the same amount of money for getting this bundle completely full of amazing raw food recipes, resources, online courses, yoga, fitness, mindfulness, self-love. It's seriously insane, and it's not just ebooks, it's mini courses, and you have them for life. This bundle will never be before repeated again. And we also have the group appetizers book, which isn't sold at all outside of this. So I mean, you could wait and you could buy everyone's books individually afterwards, but yeah, ridiculous. You can get it in both of our links, Super Healthy Raw or mine. And I'm going to invite this. If you guys have any questions, you can write them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them at the very end here. It's been a raw party indeed. Hey, Raw Herbs of Orchisti. What's going on? Appreciate that a lot. Hey, Karen. How you doing?
Hey, Chris. How are you
doing? Good to see
doing?
you too.
So good to
It's been a little while.
see you. Yes.
Yeah, Karen and I go pretty far back,
Yeah.
at least 10 years now, probably longer actually, since the first, 12 years ago, since the first Woodstock Fruit Festival. 12 years ago, that's a while back.
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
You were
the first one also.
That first one was
right?
crazy for me, Karen, because I had never been a chef or a yoga teacher for more than like 5 people. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, 200 people make food, 3 meals a day and speak and teach. And I was trying to wear all these hats. But that was wow, talk about a fruit party. That was amazing. Yeah.
It was amazing. For me, it was like, because I had raised my kids raw vegan back in the 80s, and I never had any community. Yeah. I mean, I was doing it on my own. And it was a struggle, because my kids got a lot of flack from other kids, but they were pretty resilient. And so we just kept on with it all those years. My son healed from asthma and ear infections, and I cleared over 25 years of cystic acne and ear.
And you've seen so much too. I mean, you also have the other book with autism, and just it's amazing the amount of diseases that we've seen people reverse. Almost so many that it starts to become commonplace when you've been doing this for decades, right? It's just really wild how the body is really designed to thrive, and most people don't recognize that they're creating sickness.
That's right. And they don't realize the miracle of healthy, whole foods. They just don't make that connection. And that's what I find most often, is that so many people are shocked when they do try it, and they get these almost immediate kinds of reliefs from, especially one of the first things they notice is that their digestion is better overall. And that's one of the first signs. And, also with the skin being the largest organ of the body. And most people look at the skin as a very isolated, skin issues.
It's nothing to
like
do with
eczema,
inside, nothing to do with what you eat. It's just surface. Totally separate.
It's separate. It's separate from the body. And that's why we have a doctor that only focuses on the skin. And so, for years I was in that same trap. And I would go to dermatologists, and they would tell me it had to do with genetics. And I used to love cheddar cheese and cheese doodles. And they said, can eat as much of it as you want. It is not going to harm you in any way because this is totally genetic. Just
It's
take your
wild, right?
drugs.
It's actually, it's wild, it's scary, and it's incredibly sad because I'm sure the vast, vast majority of them fully believe that, but there probably are some too who they have a little bit of an inkling, but they're schooling and they want to keep, they want to keep their job and they want to keep selling and making money. And I think though, for the absolute most part, most people really do act with their experience and their knowledge and want to help, but it's a wild world. And I think so often you look out and there are so many people who seemingly are doing pretty well, like eating a standard American diet. So people just think, yeah, that's fine. But they don't look into their medicine cabinet and see the number of pills they're taking, and they don't know the aches and pains they have, and they don't know the mindset and the chatter in their mind that people have. And it's time and time again, when I meet people who apply
Yeah.
this lifestyle, they just see an unwinding of all those things, like the pill list getting smaller and smaller and smaller to none, and, just feeling way, way better and having a brighter outlook and feeling light and buoyant in their body and optimistic. And it's a blessing. I mean, it's kept us here for decades, right?
That's right. How
Well,
long
it's
have you been
19
doing
years
raw
this past
vegan?
spring. Well, it's I guess spring now, but it's over 19 now, and so I'll be celebrating decades as a plural next year. Yeah. How about yourself? Are you around
Nice.
25 or longer than that?
Nice.
29. Dang, you're nearing
29.
3 decades. You got a full decade on me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like, I never went
Yeah.
back. For me, it was like all or nothing. I jumped on
Yeah.
board and I had a lot of detox, but I just, went through it, and I just believed so strongly in it ever since, because I see over and over and over again such
Yeah.
dramatic results, not only for me, but for so many other people who I've worked with, and people in my community, like even the live events that I do, and I bring people in and they start following a
Yeah.
raw vegan approach, a
Yeah.
low
Not just
fat,
desserts
of
all day.
course, because right, high
Mm.
fat did not serve me. Like, I used to eat two
Yeah.
cups of nuts a day when I started, but that didn't work. And so the low fat definitely, if you're following this
Mhm.
approach and you're going low fat, there's just no way that you won't see the
Mhm.
results. And even if you don't see them immediately, doing it over time, you have to think, like, a lot of people, like,
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
2 weeks, they're like, it didn't work. And I say, like, 2 weeks is not enough time. Like, you've been eating this way for over
Yeah.
40 years or whatever time it is.
No.
You can't give it 2 weeks. Most people aren't really willing to change their diet and their lifestyle. That's the issue. They still have the cravings and all of that come back. But if you do it over time, your cravings do
Yeah.
change. Like, I crave romaine lettuce. I didn't crave
No. No.
romaine lettuce
But it
initially.
is
So
amazing how your taste buds really do change,
it
and
does.
I'm sure it comes down to like microbiome and also your body recognizing and feeling the difference. And I think that's one of the big things is getting to a point where you notice the benefits enough that it just becomes its own motivation. But in the beginning, when you're going through some detox and some of that stuff, you can be gritting your teeth and looking at those old foods, and maybe you even came into it thinking, I should do this, like this is what I should do instead of I want to do this. And I know, at least for myself, with recovery from different types of addictions, that I needed to come to a place where I genuinely wanted to, right? Like I wanted to on all levels, and yeah, it's wild. What are the biggest reasons you find some people do come into raw food? Yeah.
Well, certainly inflammation. I get a lot of women who have come to me specifically because
Yeah.
they cannot function. Like, one woman uh, contacted me and she was like, I run a school and I can't even get through the day because, like, I can't
Yeah.
walk without extreme pain. And her ankles were all swollen. Her whole body was really inflamed. She
Mhm.
really needed to lose quite a bit of weight. And just, I took her on the path. I couldn't take her like to a 100% fully raw vegan diet. Like she was so far from that. But I got a food diary. We went over it. We talked about how she could do it in steps. And we took her on a path, and that path led her, after just 2 months, going to all whole food vegan and pretty high raw.
Awesome.
5 days of, so 5 days in 2 months eating healthy versus 3 meals a day before with animals.
Actually giving her body a break, right? And providing so many dang nutrients to help fight that inflammation and so much more.
Yeah. She was becoming, you know, her whole body was changing over that period of time. And at the end of the 2 months, she had such relief that the inflammation, she lost about between 20 and 30 pounds. And she, in addition to that, she was able to walk with no problem. The inflammation in her feet was gone. And her whole body was starting to lighten up and the inflammation go down. And she was still eating with her husband on the weekend, but because she was getting this knowledge and it was starting to make so much sense, like really going up here, she was eating much less of the meat weekend, and during the week none at all. And that's why she saw amazing results. Of course, there were many other changes that we worked on, but her diet became much less acidic.
Awesome. You know, and I think, like, I'm sure that she started to really notice too how different those foods felt. You know, like when you get used to eating lighter foods that digest easy, and then you go back to eating, or you include some of those heavier foods. In my experience, it becomes a night and day. You know, and you're just like, I don't want to take that. I don't want to feel that anymore, or at least not as much, right?
Yes. And sometimes people apologize to me. They're like, oh, like I had cravings and I went back and I had it and I got horrible results. I feel disgusting. I'm going right back. And I said, you know, maybe you needed to do that to see exactly.
I think we really do need the contrast. You know, I know Dr. Graham, who's also part of the bundle, and I think it's really neat and important to note too that the whole bundle is oil-free and low-fat. And while there are some things that are a little higher fat, they come with serving recommendations so that you don't just go overboard and eat 15 tarts. You know, you have a couple as a dessert, right? But you know, he has often said that. Oh, geez, I got a little bit sidetracked there. Oh, that we're slow learners. He's often, that's slow learner, but that we're slow learners, and then we often need to learn the same thing multiple times. And in my coaching, I'm sure you found the same too. It seems to me that most people need to pretty much go through almost every experience and choose left and right to be able to know where their center is.
Yes, and that's why that feeling of still wanting to go back and try it, like if that happens, like I don't
I couldn't imagine you being a bruiser, just like I can't believe you're off the program.
And sometimes people are very apologetic and they really don't need to be. And I saw that there was one question here about, do we need to be 100% raw to be healthy? Now, for me, I have to be fully raw, and I'll tell you why. Because my cravings come back very quickly. So if I would start eating some cooked food, even if I like sat down with a plate of steamed veggies, I could easily end up the next day eating some bread. And that could bring me down a whole path where I don't want to go. It was the processed and refined foods that had me with cystic acne. The dairy was the main culprit, but also all the pastas and breads that I ate, all that processed food that I wasn't digesting. And that little book that Doug Graham wrote, The Brain Damage, and he wrote that many years ago, and I got it. It was like a very small little book, not that many people knew about it, and it just really woke me up to the grains, and even like something like that's considered so healthy like oats. I would be like so filled with mucus after I was eating it. And I didn't make the connection until I read that little book. That was like a real eye opener for me. So, you know, when you're asking about, you know, is 100% raw necessary? You know, some people might be able to have a little bit of cooked food in there. And I don't recommend the highly cooked foods, because there's a whole window of choices that can not be healthy at all and bring you down the path. So, you know, you have to also look at cooking temperatures. And I also looked a lot at the acrylamide studies and the high cooking temperatures. And when you start baking and broiling and frying, all of those temperatures can lead to a lot of inflammation in the body. So cooking is very different amongst the different cooked foods. So that's one part of it that you want to really be clear on. And of course, with the goal of going more and more raw. I do, and I know you too, Chris, that you really do believe in the extreme benefits of a fully raw diet and how beneficial it is. I've seen miracles. I've seen total miracles, like working with people with diabetes and getting them into a 100% raw food diet and watching, you know, high fruit and watching like the
and
insulin
really quickly
down.
too, right? And I mean, I think it's important. Sorry. Yeah, exactly, absolutely. I've seen it multiple times too, and it's just, you know, like I said, it almost becomes commonplace. You almost just like you know it's going to happen, you know. And I think it's important to note, you know, each person honoring where they're at, and you know, like you said, with the person that you consulted, heading in a direction, and you know, you met them where they're at, and if someone genuinely doesn't want to be all raw, well, that's the beautiful thing about this bundle and about this lifestyle. It's only helpful to add in more healthful, like low-fat raw foods, and you can't go wrong with adding in more bites of raw food and going at the pace you want. I know some people who started a raw food diet, like myself, actually just started with a raw breakfast and slowly went from there. And the really cool thing is, the more raw foods you add, the better you feel, the more you notice how amazing those meals feel compared to other meals. And then eventually you just get to a place where you either find your happy medium or you are all raw because it just feels the best. And I like to say that there isn't a right or wrong, you know, it just comes down to genuinely what you want, what you enjoy, and what you're able to maintain as a lifestyle, instead of yo-yoing back and forth and having shame and guilt and feeling bad about it. Because no, and it's just like that guilt or that shame, I think, is worse than most cooked foods. And you know, like you said too, you know, so many like all cooked foods are kind of different, right? Like there's a vast difference between having, like, you know, some steamed broccoli and some, you know, boiled potatoes compared to having like chimichangas and, like, you know, fries and milkshakes, you know, like, so, and chips, exactly, you know. So it's like there's a world of difference, and no matter where you're at, learning how to incorporate more healthy whole foods that you love, right? I think that's just like the absolute ticket, and this bundle can be invaluable.
Like attracted to. And you know, when I'm working with people, I always talk about, like, what are the foods that you do like, and we find something transitional that's going to be similar but much healthier, and then move on to, like, what are the fruits and veggies that you enjoy. There's got to be something. Even when I worked with families with kids that have autism who are like super finicky eaters, I'm able to find something, even if it's like maple syrup, which is so healthy. But I've even worked with families where, you know, we started putting fruit into the maple syrup, and the kid had a familiar taste there, and then putting a little fruit in started to desensitize the child to first
That'd
eating
probably be
fruit.
pretty good. Probably like a maple syrup fruit soup.
No, we didn't make it
That'd be pretty
into a
expensive.
soup, but Yeah. But the maple syrup itself, you know, because the child had a taste for it, you could put other things into it. And then we started less and less and less with the maple syrup until there was none. And then the child was eating berries and other fruits. And then we just got onto the path of fruit. It was like
fruit is usually the
desensitization.
easiest, and the big blessing is, just like we've both found, having fruit the mainstay of the diet is really the secret of a healthy raw vegan lifestyle. And there's two questions I noticed here that kind of go into that. And I'll answer a little bit, and then if you'd like to add to it, because I'm sure you'll have more. The one question was, like, I love bread. What's a good substitute? And first, I'd like to say that within the bundle, there are numerous bread recipes, from buns to...
More
Yeah, exactly.
than
There's
ever.
lots.
More
So
than
you
ever.
can find a bunch in there that are amazing, you know, from the flatbreaded wraps, you know, to like slices of bread, to burger buns and more. But something that I've really noticed myself, I liked bread at one time, but to me, it has like no, I don't even really look at like food, to be honest, anymore. It has no appeal to me. But what I've found time and time again is when you learn to get enough simple carbohydrates from fruit, cravings for paste go away. You know, like that's all bread is. Dr. Graham says that all the time. It's just flour and water. That's how you make paste, and you add some yeast to it. But those cravings really go away. And it's just so much more enjoyable to have something like this, to me, than some bread. But that does take some time, and we can have some attachments to it in different ways. But what do you think about that around bread and bread kind of desires? Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Chris, because I had such strong
Yeah.
cravings for bread and pasta. And even like at the beginning when I transitioned to raw food, and for me, it was like I just went 100% raw from a processed food vegan diet. I wasn't on vegan whole foods. I was just eating mostly pastas and breads. And when I transitioned, I missed them for a while. And I missed them more when I
Yeah,
was
I believe
eating
it.
high fat. So when my diet was really high in nuts and seeds and even oil at the beginning, not realizing that oil was so processed and 100% fat, when I started to realize that, and I moved to low fat, raw vegan, high fruit, that all
Yeah.
changed. Like all my cravings went away. No longer missed the pasta and the bread. And if somebody would like shine their plate in front of my face and say, "Ooh, don't you miss this?" I'd be absolutely not. It actually
Yeah.
looks like
Yeah.
Barbie doll furniture.
Oh man. You know,
I
no.
had the feeling
It's,
for it
it is
anymore at
so dang
all.
true. And it's like, people sometimes say like, oh, the raw diet's so hard. And absolutely there are some hard aspects to it, because, you know, there's, you know, we're unprogramming or rewinding our mind and letting go of, you know, kind of cultural traditions. And, you know, I used to say that we're kind of going upstream, but actually I think everyone else is going upstream. We're just actually jumping in and going downstream, you know. But it takes some unwinding, and we have to face old thoughts and old beliefs, and, you know, some uncomfortable situations and feelings and all that stuff. And, you know, someone here was mentioning about how they almost feel bad eating that much food. And I think a lot of people are afraid to overeat. And
To overeat, and they're still afraid that
yeah,
fruit is going to cause
it's,
weight gain. And so, like, I want to say that
oh yeah,
that is really a fallacy. Um, I haven't seen it. I recently worked with a woman who lost like over 70 pounds. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I eat a ton. I eat a ton. People like look at me and I'm thin. People look at me and
yeah,
like, they're like, how do you eat so much food? Like, and not gain weight. And I'm like, because this doesn't put on weight. I mean, of course, you've got to get exercise and movement as well. You can't just be
yeah,
sitting around all day. But you have to realize that the fruit is this simple carbohydrate, and the
yeah,
glucose just gives you energy. And that energy is so helpful. I just feel like through the day I have long, sustainable energy. I can do everything that I want to do.
I had to please the crowd. Isn't that the beautiful thing though, Karen? Because, you know, it all comes together, because when you start eating enough volume to sustain your caloric needs, you start to feel more bouncy, you start to feel like you want to move, and then before you know it, progressively you become more active, because, you know, we need a certain level of activity to be optimally fit and to be optimally nourished, because it increases our caloric demand. But it's not like, you know, someone has to start this and, okay, now you have to eat X amount and you have to be a perfect athlete. No, your vibrancy, your vitality, and your desire to move and your desire to eat more raw foods steadily goes up the more you do it and the more you go at the pace that just feels good to you.
That's right. And I just also want to add to that, because a lot of people feel like as they're getting older that they need way more protein, and that they really do need to watch the fruit, because the fruit is going to put that visceral fat around the midline. No. It is not the fruit that puts that visceral fat around the midline. It's saturated fat that does that. So I don't worry about that. I have a completely flat tummy, and I'm well into my menopause years and thoroughly enjoying it. I had a completely uneventful menopause, never had a hot flash, and you don't have to have hot flashes. You know, a lot of women tell me that they have hot flashes going into the senior years, and you can be just as active, feel as great, have like your ideal weight. I fit into all my college clothes, and it just can be so much fun and so enjoyable. And so, you know, I was saying on some of the other lives that I've done, like a lot of people come to me and they say, what do you think, Karen? You're going to live forever? And like, I know I'm not going to live forever. You know, we're all going to go at some point. No. And there's never a guarantee. However, while I'm here on this planet, I want to have the best quality of life possible. And that's why I live this healthy, raw vegan lifestyle. And I just want to also say that in the last raw vegan bundle, I did a mini course on how to have a happy, healthy menopause. And it's just, it's not complicated. And eating fruit is not something that we should fear. We just have to make sure that we eat enough. That's where I see people falling off a lot, is just not getting in enough food, not getting enough variety, and just all these fears and myths that they've been brought up with just really need to be changed. And once that happens, I feel like you really do feel empowered. So it's perfect. So I highly recommend getting this new bundle, because every bundle is totally unique in and of itself. There are so many really high quality resources about raw vegan food, like over 400 recipes that are, most of them, the majority of them, you can make very easily and quickly and have in your daily routine. There's some that are more complicated and you could try for special times, but I like to live very simply. And so I might pick some of those go-to recipes. But there's also really incredible resources in this bundle. Like there's a book on chakras, there's yoga trainings, like you could do yoga in your own home, and have some fantastic teachers. I love Angelica's yin yoga. I saw that there's Ashtanga yoga as well. There's fitness programs. There's books specifically about fruitarian lifestyle. I have my new book on how I cleared over 25 years of cystic acne in just 3 months. And I have my before and after pictures in there going back to 1987 so awesome. And 1997.
Your acne was pretty intense there, I tell you. And you look so clear in 97. That's awesome. That's all. And like we were saying too, with misconceptions, Dr. Doug Graham and Ted Carr came together and made a 26 video series, all just on the major misconceptions about the raw food diet. Yeah,
I
no,
can't
me
wait
too.
to
I've listened to
listen
about
to
half
that.
of it so far, and you know, it's kind of crazy thinking about it. You know, talking about being raw for decades. Can you imagine having this resource at the beginning of your journey? Like, imagine your first year if you had all of this.
Oh my God. I wish I had it in
Yeah,
1994 when I went raw vegan. That's when I wish I had it, because I
yeah,
really felt like I was doing this alone. I shortly after, like around 95 or
yeah.
96, I did meet Doug Graham. I went down to Florida and met him. And yeah, and so that was like a real eye opener for me, just meeting him and bringing him then to New Jersey, where I hosted annually my
Yeah,
annual
yeah.
Thanksgiving celebration. The weekend after Thanksgiving, we have an event where we bring people together. I've had
Yeah.
like one time 122
Nice. That's
people in my
awesome.
house. It was a
Did
bit
you have to
crazy,
prepare food for all of them?
but we had Graham
No
come and
way.
speak at those events.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. If you're here
yeah,
at that time of the year,
excited
you'll
to,
come.
absolutely. I'm hoping to come back to another Woodstock festival and for more festivals in the States in times to come, for sure. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
waiting. I
Speaking of
can't
festivals, that's
wait.
another thing too. You know, coming together in community. I think that's one of the fun things about this bundle too, is everyone coming together and doing these.
Ron
Exactly.
book,
His book in the
Ronnie
bundle
book.
goes
Yeah.
into all the major fruit festivals around the world for 2023, but then also lists all previous festivals and gives history and pictures and information. And, you know, it's just, it's amazing to look back at those and see the ones I've been to and then see the ones I didn't even know about and, you know, the history between them. It's, there's something magical about coming together with like-minded people, right, that are really in this lifestyle.
My husband, the first time he went to the
Yeah.
Woodstock Fruit Festival, he said, "Why is everybody so happy here?" Because
Yeah.
because of the food they're eating, and they just feel alive, and they have like-minded friends
Yeah.
around, new people in their lives, and they're hearing talks from people who have been
Yeah.
living this lifestyle for so many years. So the fruit festivals are such a wonderful opportunity, and that's like another book that I can't wait to look into. That's going to be really exciting. So, you know, just for one or two of these books or
Yeah.
mini courses or programs, it's worth the price of the bundle. And like, people are getting over 40. I have some followers who I think one woman told
Yeah.
me like she just gets it every single time, because she just said every
Yeah.
single bundle is totally exclusive, and she's just getting like such
Yeah.
life transforming
Yeah.
information that will serve her and her family for years. So I wish I had it
Yeah.
back in the 80s and 90s when I went vegan and then raw vegan.
Yeah.
It would have
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
so
I often
helpful.
say, like, you know, when I come out to Woodstock and to New York, I've often gone to a raw restaurant or two because there aren't raw restaurants where I'm at. And like you've experienced, you know, they're generally high fat and quite expensive. And, you know, you could go to a restaurant once, or you could get a bundle and learn how to make the best food way better than any raw restaurant that I've ever been to in your own home whenever you want, right? And then, you know, all the other bonuses and courses and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, so, really so much. And it's such a great way to bring raw vegan community together, and all of us to be doing these lives together and connecting, so people see like who's out there being creative in the raw food community and
yeah,
bringing all these beautiful books to them. So it's
absolutely.
really just a wonderful resource. It's
Yeah,
really,
no, me
I look
too.
at it as a
Me too.
no-brainer, and it's hard to explain how
Yeah, all
mind-blowing
people
the
just gotta
bundle
check it
really is.
out through the
I
link in your
recommend,
bio at Super Healthy Children, or myself.
yeah.
But so sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Some people here asking, I'm confused about protein and exercise and what to eat before and after. What would you tell somebody who's looking to do that?
confused
Yeah, they're
about
confused
protein
about
and
protein and what
exercise.
foods they should eat before and after exercise.
Yeah, I just eat the foods that give me energy. Like early in the day, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
mostly eating fruit in the day. I will have a
yeah,
smoothie midday,
yeah,
like I see you doing.
yeah,
For me now, it's earlier in the
yeah,
day, so I just had a fruit meal, and that's what gives me energy, and I'll
yeah,
replenish afterwards with more fruit because that's what gives me
yeah,
sustained energy throughout the day. And I've seen this so clearly. I worked with one school teacher a young woman, 25 years old, who was crashing. She was severe
yeah,
chronic fatigue in the middle of the day. She had no energy. And that one shift to fruit
yeah,
before she went to work, it changed her
yeah,
years of chronic
yeah,
fatigue, changed like that.
yeah.
Fruit for
This,
breakfast. And many other changes she made in her diet where she saw like profound changes in things like thyroid issues and all that. But the one shift to fruit in the morning is what gave her the energy throughout the day. So when you're talking about exercise and
oh
protein,
yeah,
fruit has
yeah.
protein too, by the way. Even banana
Pretty
is
much perfect amount,
5% complete
right? In fruit.
protein. So
It's pretty much the perfect
what was
amount in
that,
fruit.
Chris?
You know, it's like, I mean, you can get more dense protein in greens and in some seeds or nuts and stuff like that, veggies. But I mean, if you meet your caloric demands
Yes.
on fruit, you're assured enough protein, unless you're just maybe eating dates or a processed thing. But like Michael Arnstein, for example,
Yeah.
the creator of the Woodstock Fruit Festival, when he was doing his most extensive ultra marathons back to back and like ripped and fit, he was eating strictly fruit, mostly just juicy fruit. And it really just comes down to eating enough. And while neither of us really necessarily promote a full fruitarian approach, you can get a lot of protein from fruit just by eating a variety and eating enough.
Yes. And like you just said, I also recommend eating
Me
a
too.
sufficient amount of leafy green. There's plenty
Green smoothie.
of protein in those. A lot of people, yes,
Hmm.
I'll be doing one of those too. There's a lot of, there's some protein in nuts and seeds, but really
Yeah.
those are more fat sources. A lot of people think like that's where they need to get their protein, but no, you're going to get a lot of protein in all your food combined, all your plant foods, your fruits, your leafy greens, your veggies. You're going to be just fine. And when you're working out, you really
Yeah.
need to think about your energy. Getting your energy from simple carbohydrates
Absolutely.
is really the
You know,
best
Karen,
way.
that was my
So,
first
fruit,
switch in '99 was reading Fit for Life and starting to have fruit for breakfast. And I haven't had a legitimate sick day since '99, and I definitely attribute it to just becoming more well versed in holistic health, going in a direction, but not at a stress level, just going in a direction, and eating more and more and more fruit. And like, since I took that on, being totally honest, when I first started taking on fruit for breakfast, I was still drinking and I was still smoking. And I actually would tell my friends, when you have a hangover, eat a whole big meal of pears. And I found like it just like wiped it out. You know what I mean? It could be any fruit, right? It's just rehydrating up and getting vitamin C and all those nutrients in. But that's where my story started. And the more fruit I ate, the better I felt, and the more I wanted to eat more, and started incorporating different kind of recipes and more vegetables. And then I met Doug Graham, kind of similar to you, and it completely shifted my high raw diet into fully raw and just streamlined. And boom, here we are, nearly 20 years later.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I feel the same way. Like a lot of people early on, especially like friends and family, said, "Oh, you'll be doing this for a couple of years and then you'll be done." And here I am, raw vegan, close to 30 years later, and I'm still going strong. And I expect that this is the way I'll be living for the rest of my life. And like you,
Mhm.
I haven't gotten sick. I enjoy good health, and I've just seen so many changes in my own life and those around me that I wouldn't want to go in any other direction. And people say to me, why are you, why are you so passionate about this? That's why, because it works. It works. I wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. And I just feel like I want to have the highest quality of life. And that's what it really does for us. It gives us, that's that
the thing,
quality.
right? Like when you try something on because either you're desperate or you're curious or, you've been told, hey, this could work for you, right? So you try something on and it starts to feel good, and then it starts to feel better, and then it starts to feel amazing, and then you start to learn, wow, not only is this amazing, but it's the absolute bar none best choice you can make for the environment. It's showing compassion for the animals. It's like it's the most compassionate diet that you possibly can do. It reverberates out and can help people heal themselves from degenerative diseases and come to live a happier, healthier, more balanced life as well. It's like, of course you're going to be passionate about it. Of course you want to share it. And of course you want to pull your hair out sometimes and maybe even get a little angry, like, because we're creating so many problems in this world. And this simple thing of what we put in our mouth and the food we grow has probably the most profound effect on ourselves and the planet of any choice you could ever make.
It does. It does. It just reverberates over and over and over again out there. It's just incredible. And what we see is that, for me, first and foremost, it's plants. First and foremost. So, helping to, because most people don't understand. We are not allowed in slaughterhouses. We're not allowed in factory farms. So we are really not seeing the reality of what's happening out there. We know it's happening because people are eating all those foods, but we're not seeing it. And what we do know from the footage, from the films that we do have, is that it is absolutely horrific. It's beyond anything we could ever even imagine. And my feeling is that we have to educate others, and we have to set that example in order to see the world that we want to see. We want to open up people's consciousness to understand what's really truthfully happening, which is very often just pushed under and hidden. And people are in this world of showing their kids a video of Peppa Pig in the morning and eating bacon in the evening for dinner. There's a total disconnect.
No idea. It's, in the beginning of this talk, it's kind of funny because we're going kind of full circle with some of that. It is wild with the animal products, how they give them different names that are so disassociated that people, kids don't know. When kids learn, you see those videos of kids learning, this is animal, this is that. When they make that connection and their heart center is so in touch, they don't want it. There's kids that see that and they just cry, I don't want that food, And on the other side of it, we were talking about bread before, and one of the funniest stories I had heard about with Francesca, Dr. Doug Graham and Rosalind's child, she had never eaten bread, right? But they had fed bread to birds. And at one point, Doug had to tell her that people eat bread too. And she's like, but that's bird food. Why do they eat bird food? I just love that story.
Yeah, that is funny. That is funny. Yeah, so we're not supposed to eat those things, and we're not supposed to be eating dead animals. Their bacteria, their hormones are a totally different species, bacteria and hormones. No. They don't belong in the human body. They're not ours. And you don't see a cow nursing from a pig or any animal nursing from another animal. We're only supposed to nurse from our own species. And it's a commercial interest after we wean our children that they drink a milk from another animal, especially an animal that's growing into an 800 plus pound beef, and then we wonder why we have such a high rate of obesity. So you know, we really just have to have a lot of common sense and look at these situations. Are we really supposed to be heating our food? Are we, does any other animal out
Since
in
the
nature have
beginning
a
of time,
stove?
yeah, like every single living being on the planet since the beginning of time has made their mainstay from raw, ripe foods that they're biologically, physiologically designed for, right? And it's like, sure, there's some scavengers that, you know, scavenge off of us, or maybe scavenge after a forest fire. That's how I would imagine possibly the first kind of cooked foods were maybe eaten. But yeah, it's no doubt that we do not require those, and those foods come with known symptoms. You know, it's like I don't want to be eating foods that I get symptoms from, and I don't really want to be eating foods that I have what I would consider an unhealthy attraction and or addiction towards. You know, feel like a weird, gross craving with fruits and vegetables. Like I love fruits and vegetables, but I've never been like itchy, like a drug addict looking for my fruits. Like, oh my God, where's my fruits? You know, like, but a lot of processed foods and a lot of, you know, like dairy products and stuff like that, they produce those symptoms, you know?
Yeah, yes, food cravings. And there's a lot of things added to those as well to make coming back. Like there's a lot of salt in dairy products. So that makes on coming back as well. And all the processed food, I mean, the scientists know what they're doing. They want you to come back. There's all this hidden MSG, monosodium glutamate labeling in there. Like natural, like you look at it, you think, oh, natural flavorings, that's healthy. A lot of times that's monosodium
How
glutamate.
sneaky they are, right? Like
Not
we can
healthy.
be naive and we can, you know, not know things and just, you know, but it's all money, 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 money. There's so much money, and there's that triangle of like big food and big pharma and big surgeries, and they all feed each other. And you know, I don't like to think that, you know, they're sitting there in the lab like, ha ha ha, we're gonna get them, but they are trying to make more money. Some of them are, some of them are, but some of them are just, you know, some of them are just in jobs and that's where they get their funding. And other people are just like, oh, maybe this is helpful to feed more people and blah, blah, blah. You know, like I like to try to see the best, but also not at the same time, not be naive to the realities behind it, you know?
They have to know that that stuff isn't real.
Most of them do. I would agree.
Real.
I would agree.
Yeah,
it is always amazing though, right? Because even though it is so self-apparent, and you know, when you've been doing this long enough, it's like you can just shake your head like, how isn't this common sense for everyone? But for any line of thought, there's somebody else who believes just as firmly the opposite, and like believes it to their core, you know? And it's a wild world out there, but I tell you, one thing that brings even more confidence around this to me is just the reality that, you know, I've met thousands of people now near the last 20 years who have been living a raw food lifestyle, and hundreds who have been living it long term, you know, like really like over, at least we'll say over 7 or 8 years, you know? And I have only, I think, met one that I could say has told me they actually prefer in all levels eating high raw over all raw. You know, like all the other people who have at least consistently done an all raw diet for a period of time where they're doing it correctly. You know, they're doing it in a way that is a healthful, sustainable way of doing it. Not like they just tried it for a week and this or that, but they've been doing it for a number of years.
Yeah.
Everyone just says it feels the best. Like it absolutely feels the best. And some people choose to have some cooked foods for either emotional or social situations or just convenience, depending on where they live in the world and their you know, their mindset around it. But it's the same story. Like it feels so darn good. Like nothing compares to how well it feels when you can really streamline it and you know what you're doing.
That's right. That's right. You feel amazing. And that's why even coming in this direction, people start to feel amazing right away. And the thing is that as you continue, you see more and more of the benefits. So those people who are patient with the process are going to really, really reap the benefits. I mean, I have seen people who after 2 weeks, like even one woman with breast cancer, after 2 weeks trying it, she's like, it doesn't work. And I said, you just can't give it 2 weeks. You got to with it. And so those people who have stuck with it, there was another woman I worked with breast cancer about 10 years ago. She was willing to stick with it no matter what. She said, you know, even if I go through some detox, I'm sticking with it. And like, she's around and thriving today and doing great. And it's because she stuck with it. And you know, it's not only the food, there's other factors as well that, like, you know, we've been like raving about the food, and there are all these other factors. We did touch on exercise, on movement, on sleep, on mental and emotional well-being. Having people in your life who are like-minded, I feel is really important to me. I haven't given up my friends who don't think like me in this area of my life, but I love being with those people who are on the same page with raw food. And that's the benefit of going to fruit festivals and connecting with others on this path and being part of a bundle like this. And even going through these books, you'll feel connected to each and every single one of these people in this bundle, these wonderful raw food chefs and authors and teachers. Like, we're all putting this project together with Chris and Lissa because it has great meaning to us. So I hope everybody here will think about getting the bundle.
You know, we talked about a couple really key points, you know, like we talked about getting enough calories, and we talked about, you know, the other holistic lifestyle aspects that are so important for longevity, you know, for being raw for decades. And I think one other component that we briefly kind of mentioned, but is good to pin home maybe to wrap up this talk a little bit, is how important good education is, you know, and support. And, you know, this bundle, while it's recipes, while it's, you know, mindset, all this stuff, it does have also a lot of really, really good key information, you know, that can just streamline this journey and help bring confidence and competence. Because, you know, if you're applying the lifestyle, but you don't necessarily believe in it, or you're afraid about this, or you're afraid about that, you can't shine the same way you can if you have confidence in it, you're enjoying it, and you're not nitpicking your diet and worried about every single little thing, you know? And just like you
totally
go ahead.
Does get, you know, getting more information. Like, I know for me, because, you know, like, I was pretty much doing it alone back in the 90s, just reading, you know, when books started coming out, and reading and learning, and you're growing that way, and you're becoming more confident by assuring yourself that it's not only these two people saying it, this works for me, you know, and that's what happened to me, and why I felt so confident as a raw vegan mom, and so passionate about it that I ended up writing all these books. My first book was my classic book, Creating Healthy Children Through Attachment Parenting and Raw Foods, where I really show that children can be raised on raw foods. Like, it's not just for adults. Like, people had the misinformation that it was like only adults could eat raw food. Like, kids need to eat all the other stuff. They need animal protein. That kids also, like, everybody can grow and live well on this lifestyle. This is really the way to go. Absolutely. This is the lifestyle that you want to lead. But there are all these other health links that go along with it. You can't expect just to go raw and not move, you know, not get exercise. You can't expect to go raw and be under a lot of stress, because stress is just as important. Your stress
just
level.
Mentioning that too, because like stress is big. And, you know, when we're on a high vibrancy raw food diet, we can actually come to feel things more intensely. And most people use food as their coping mechanism for stress. So it's like, when you take away your security blanket, you really need to learn new ways to deal and to cope with stress, right?
Absolutely. You need other ways of dealing with stress. There's so many tools out there, and many of them are in this bundle that can help with meditation, manifestation, food freedom,
Yeah.
emotional cravings, all these things. These are
And like you
also
said
part of the
too, like
bundle.
community and finding your tribe, and many people who are in this bundle are also coaches. So you can be reading through the books and connecting through the videos, and find the person that you feel the most attracted or aligned with, and reach out and make new connections, make new friends. And it's just it's so much more fun together. And as we said earlier, it's like if this wasn't working good, if this wasn't feeling great, we wouldn't be doing this for decades. We wouldn't see more people approaching their decades and decades. So it's an honor and pleasure, Karen, to be here
Definitely.
with you, and to be just entering into the 20s as you leave into the 30s. It's exciting.
It is really exciting, and it's just a really good feeling also to be a pioneer in the movement. Both of us are pioneers, and just really to be leading the way for all of these people who are wanting this education. It's a life-changing
And that's
way to
exactly it.
live.
It's like this bundle is an opportunity for everyone here to become the light bringers in their families, right? In their groups, in their friend groups. And that doesn't necessarily mean like taking this on and all of a sudden becoming an evangelical raw vegan. Have you heard the way? Have you heard, the truth about raw? No, but incorporating into your life and being the living example, and being able to ask or answer questions if people have questions. I tell you, it's amazing. You don't know how big of an impact you make, like each and every single one watching this, that you make and your choices make. And it's important. And this is impactful, as we said, not just for yourself, but for those around you. You love the animals, the planet. And it's just, it's a rippling effect. It is, and I think it's just a beautiful thing to come into our power and come into the knowledge that we are creators. And sure, it's a bit of responsibility, but it only comes with benefits, and we're letting go of symptoms and side effects of other things, right? My cat's automatic cat feeder is going off, so yeah, she just, it was kind of funny. She just jumped up on my lap, and I was gonna lift her up to show you guys, but then as soon as that went, like before it even starts, she hears like the motor start to run. She's like, boom, she's gone. Yeah.
Really? Oh,
she's so
that's
awesome.
So funny. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I hope everybody who is listening here today that you got some good value. That's always the goal, is to spread this valuable message. That's my mission, to be able to get this message out there. And we're doing this. We're doing this through our books. We're doing it through these lives. I have a vegan coach certification. So I work with students who I help them to do exactly what I'm doing, because after I'm gone, I want this to keep on going. So they're spreading this message. There's others in the movement who are doing this kind of education. Thank you, Chris, for all that you do getting the message out so beautifully. And it's not about a goal of being 100% and being an elitist, because some people, they come back and they say, oh, raw vegans are elitists. No, that's not how you should look at it. You should look at it that you do the best you can to spread this valuable message. I am friends and non-judging with everybody, but at the same time, my message and my mission are really clear, and so is my education. And so I do see a rippling effect.
And I just want to acknowledge you as well, Karen, all you do in the community and for the movement. And it's beautiful to know you and to be a part of this with you and everyone else in the bundle. And someone just actually asked about learning more about raw vegan and autism, which would lead me to ask, where else can people find you if they want to connect with you and see all your other works and your other books?
So, well, here on Instagram, I'm at Super Healthy Raw, and my websites are Feel Fabulous with Food. That's where my vegan coach certification is, and it's focused a lot on raw vegan. That's where I do my health coaching with women on hormonal and gut health and weight loss. There's a button there that says work with me at Feel Fabulous with Food. And I also have my family website, Families and Children, at superhealthychildren.com. And my YouTube channel is Feel Fabulous
so Super Healthy
with Food.
Children and Feel Fabulous with Food.
Yeah. And then here on Instagram, Super Healthy Raw.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. Thousand thanks and appreciation to you. And if it's all right with you, I'd love to upload this onto YouTube as well.
I would love that. And I would also like to be a collaborator here. I would like to upload it to YouTube as well, and also to put it in my profile. And for those who are following me, you should also follow Chris at the Raw Advantage. So, and your website I know is the rawadvantage.com.
Well, so much love, Karen. I hope you have an amazing, amazing day. And thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll see you again in the next live. I've got another in a couple hours. I'm sure you have some more coming up in the next day too.
I have some more today as well. So yes, follow me at Super Healthy
grab the
Raw.
bundle on her page if you're not following her. Follow her and grab the bundle. So thanks again, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
Bye.